It's Battle of the Pale Ales.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. Got a bit of a different one today, and it is one that I did promise to do. And it is a comparison between what I think personally are two of the best pale ales I tasted last year. Now, well, that's a lie actually, because this one here, the Hepworth Pale Ale, that I tasted this year. It was I think it must have been the first beer I reviewed this year, and it was outstanding. And I got this from Morrison's. It was sat on the shelf. If you look at the review on the channel of this stuff, the Hepworth Sussex craft, brewed in Sussex no less, you'll see the full review there. It's a really good pale ale. But what I love about this pale ale, it is a traditional British pale ale. There is no hint of American hops in this, certainly not that I can discern, and it's very malty, and it's a lovely biscuit malt, which is what I would expect from a British pale ale. Now, you know, if you look at this channel, you can tell the difference. I'm sure you can anyway. You can tell the difference between a British pale ale and an American pale ale, but the main difference is the hops. So this was brewed, or is brewed, with British hops. And the same, yeah, look, it says it on here, Sussex hops and barley. But, you know, you can grow American hops here. They obviously don't taste the same over here. There's geology. What's the fucking word? Geology. You have to take the geology into account. I'm fucking useless with these words, I'll tell you. You wouldn't believe I'm English, would you? Or half paddy, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm putting it up against this lot. From the People's Republic of Yorkshire.
If I want a cheeky monkey, I got the cheeky monkeys are us.
If this comes second, I am definitely fucking dead. But it's the Timothy Taylor's Landlord, and that is a pale ale as well. And they say the classic pale ale, and it is. It's a classic British pale ale. It's 4.1%, and I think this, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 3.8 or 3.5. What has it got on it? Yeah, 3.5. Now, pale ale, traditional British pale ale, usually low in ABV, quite malty, as the name would suggest, quite light in colour. However, these colours can vary. You get everything from what is, or what looks like lager, to relatively dark coloured beer, and everything in between. Now, pale ale, of course, it goes back years. In fact, you know, IPAs, if you want to really get down to the nitty gritty, pale ale came about because of a tax that was put on malt. And where you had the dark malt of original British beer or original English beer, which was old ale, when the blockade during the Napoleonic Wars took place and there was a heavier tax put on malt because it was in short supply, the brewers started putting less malt in, and you wouldn't get that dark colour, that lovely dark colour that you get with the original old ales and porters. So pale ale became very popular, and then of course it was exported to the far-flung reaches of the empire. It got the name India Pale Ale. If you want to really delve into this, look at my history of India Pale Ale. That's on the channel as well. But today we are just concerned with these two breweries. Now I'll say a quick word about Timothy Taylor's. Timothy Taylor's are very old. They go back to 1858, and I know that doesn't really compare with the ages of some of the German and Belgian brewers, but for British brewing, that is relatively old. And they do some great beers, and this stuff is really good, and you can get it quite easily down here in the south and in London as well, because I don't know, it's probably because it's such a good beer that it's become widely available. You can buy this in a lot of supermarkets as well. I'm lucky enough when the pubs are open, of course, when there's no lockdown, I'm lucky enough to have a pub that sells this. In fact, I know 2 pubs that sell it on tap, and it's really good, or on cask, I should say. And there's quite a few pubs in London that sell this as well. And I always make a point of having it if they've got it on there, because it is such a good pint out of a cask. Really is good. I think the ABV is slightly less, but it's really good. And the old adage does come into play. Usually beer is better on cask, but with Timothy Taylor, that really is the case. Now, I'm going to contrast that with a relatively new brewery. They haven't been going long. They class themselves as a craft brewer, and as it says on there, it says craft brewed in Sussex, and it's just a really good beer. Now, I do have to take some things into consideration when comparing these 2 beers. Timothy Taylor are a lot bigger of a brewery. They brew in much larger batches, and they distribute to the far-flung reaches of the United Kingdom. So they're brewing on a much bigger scale, and if you're brewing in smaller batches, you tend to sort of take more care. I wouldn't say, no, that's a lie. I wouldn't say you take more care, but you pay more attention to the batch that you're brewing. I don't know for certain. I would imagine a lot of the stuff in the Timothy Taylor brewery, mind you, it is Yorkshire, you know what they're like for a tradition, but I imagine some of this stuff is automated, you know, the ingredients, because they're brewing it on such a big scale. A lot of it is computerised now, so there's no guessing. You know, they say, you say that, but I know for a fact, well, I did a brewery tour at Fuller's about 7 years ago, and they still put a lot of the ingredients in by hand, so I really don't know. This is all just my estimation of it. But what I do know is I've got 2 fantastic beers, and I want to see which one is the best out of the 2. So let's shut up and let's investigate. Right, I'm going to do the 2 together. I'm just going to compare them all the way through. On the back of the Landlord, we have got a 500ml bottle. We've got a 500ml bottle here. 3.5%, 4.1%, not much in it. Perfectly acceptable ABVs for an English style pale ale. They do say the hops are in there. Yeah, they've got Golden Promise hops in here. Oh, sorry, Golden Promise hops. Golden Promise malted barley, which is really nice. They use whole leaf hops as well in this, which again is another good thing. There's no hop extract, there's no hop oil. This is all proper whole leaf hop, and they have got the unique taste of the Knoll spring water and their own unique yeast as well. And as I've said before on a video, I can't remember which one, but Timothy Taylor used the same ingredients for all their beer. And you get such a wide diversity of beer, and to me that just smacks of very adept brewers, if you know what I mean. If you're using the same ingredients for every beer, but you're putting various different measures of the ingredients and the yeast strains, that just says they are expert brewers, and I believe it as well with their beers. The Bolt Maker, the bitter they do, is fantastic. Really should check that out. Check out my review of it on the channel as well. Now let's get on to the Hepworth stuff. Hepworth, fucking hops on a brain. Hepworth, craft beer at its best. Sussex is a well-hopped traditional pale ale. First quenching and traditionally brewed with the finest Sussex-grown ingredients, malted barley, golden and admirable. I always do that. It's admirable, not admirable hops, you twat. Admirable hops. It carries the warranty of origin, the guarantee, our commitment to creating excellent beers from the highest quality, local ingredients, contains Sussex-grown barley. Yeah, again, now obviously they haven't got the heritage that Timothy Taylor has got, and they obviously haven't got the distribution that Timothy Taylor has got, or the reputation. But what they have got, just judging from that, and you know, if you investigate the brewery, you will see this as well. They look like they care about what they do. I've got some of their beers in the fridge, and I just can't wait to try them. However, I've got a load of German beers in the fridge, and it's a toss-up between the 2. I am getting through all. I know I've got some British. I've mostly got British beer and German beer in the fridge at the moment. I went a bit over the top on the Belgian stuff just before Christmas. I've got a load of reviews to pump out on the Belgian stuff, so I thought I'd best weigh it up a bit more with the German and British stuff. But here we go. Let's shut up. Let's get these open. Let's see what's going on. Right. If you've not tried Timothy Taylor Landlord before, I suggest you try it because it is fantastic. There's the cap off the Timothy Taylor. Here is the cap off the Hepworth. God, that is on there pretty hefty. Hepworth. There you go. Now they're from Sussex, Hepworth, the land of Gestapo fucking traffic wardens. If you look at my review about the traffic wardens in Brighton, I hope they all die screaming for their mothers. Only joking. Don't really. Anyway, let's get the Timothy Taylor into a glass. This glass is filthy. I've just seen this on the side. I do apologise. I don't know what the fuck has gone on there. That is filthy. That is unforgivable. I can actually see the dirt on it. Look. Now that wasn't on purpose, Yorkshire, so don't fucking start getting all northern on me. Right, I'll just fill them out halfway. God, the aroma is coming from that. Oh, it's beautiful. I'm going to just sit here and take this in. Now, I've tried Landlord loads of times, so it's not as if I'm going to go, oh, guess what I'm getting? But there is a nice citrus to this. Like an orchard type fruit, apples, a little touch of orange on that. And some nice malt. Oh, it does smell good. It does smell very good indeed. Now, the Hepworth stuff. This stuff actually blew me away when I tried it. For a pale ale, it really is good. But what's more, it's brewed in a traditional British fashion. Christ almighty, this glass isn't better. I really do apologise. This is very, well, I'm not a fucking professional, but it doesn't look good when you've got glasses this fucking dirty. Look. There's a comparison between the two. Very similar, I think, but the Hepworth is lighter in colour. Good levels of carbonation on both. Head retention's pretty good. They're barking at a dog who'd probably fucking savage him if he came into the house. There you go. Landlord's slightly darker, and that's in the Bass glass. The Hepworth is in the London Pride glass. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to fill them out halfway. They're pretty evenly matched there. Right, let's get them tasted. Okay, I'm going to start with the Hepworth. Bottoms up. Oh, it's great. Very malty, and it's exactly what I remember. Oh, and the biscuit malt finish. That is beautiful. That is just fantastic, Hepworth. You have done a cracking job on that. Now, one thing I will say. The best pale ale I have tasted is neither of these two. The best pale ale I have tasted is the Samuel Smith's from the People's Republic of Yorkshire. So Yorkshire, you've got that title anyway. All right. Now, you really have to try the Sam Smith's pale ale. It is better than, I wouldn't say it's better than anything they do, but it's certainly better than the IPA or the India ale that they do. But there you go. There's the caveat between, this isn't a comparison for the best pale ale. Sam Smith's have that by a long chalk. But this is, runner up. And I'll tell you something, this is fantastic stuff. There's a lovely hop flavour. British hop as well. It's very, very slightly citrusy and a little bit earthy. But this is all about the malt. And then the malt just kicks in. And it is just lovely biscuit malt. And that just carries on. And then as it goes down, you're getting some herbal notes from the hops. And it's just great. It is an absolutely outstanding pale ale. Very good indeed. Now, the Timothy Taylor stuff. I've had a chance to let that to calm down a bit. Oh, that just smells, it smells different, but it smells lovely. This is more citrusy and more grass and herbally. There's more hop character in this, if you know what I mean. Let's get this down the hatch. Bottoms up. Oh. Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. Lots of oh, and there's the finish. Beautiful. You get the citrusy fruit flavours they're talking about on the description on the back. Certainly, and there's more in this that I've noticed when I compare it to that. There's a little touch of orange on that, orange zest, which, again, if you try the Fuller's Bengal Lancer, that is very zesty, and that is, you know, effectively that is an over-hopped pale ale. That's what India pale ale is, and that does remind me a lot of the Bengal Lancer with that orange zest in it. Some people call it marmalade. I'll just call it orange zest because effectively that is what makes marmalade taste like what it is, because of them, the shreds in it, the shreds of orange zest. Lovely earthy bitterness to it. That is slightly bitter, more bitter than the Hepworth stuff. And in fact, the Timothy Taylor stuff from the bottle does remind me more of a English India Pale Ale with the extra hops in it. The Hepworth stuff is more the pale ale I remember from years ago. Very malty. There is a slight hop character there, not as much as the Timothy Taylor. Now, do you know what will be really good? Because this is all about the malt, and this is all about the hops. If I blended these two, let's do it. Let's have a crack at blending these two. Now, I've got a very small glass here somewhere, which is good for blending because I don't want to put too much in it. I'm going to put equal amounts of the Hepworth stuff. What's that? Like a fucking state of these glasses. Jesus. And I'm going to put some of the Timothy Taylor stuff in it. I'd say that's about equal. Blending beer is nothing unusual. They do it a lot in Germany, and they do a lot in Belgium as well, certainly with Lambic beers. And they do it a fair bit in Britain as well, but not so much as the other two countries. Belgium is the one where you do blended beers, but you know, I just like experimenting with beers, so let's see what this tastes like. Oh, that is really good. That is the perfect balance. That really does bring out the malty character in Timothy Taylor, because Timothy Taylor has quite a lot of hop character on the pale ale. Hepworth has more of the malty character, and the two together, they really do combined, they really do make a great beer. That really is good. I do love that. Possibly the ultimate session ale. Still not as good as Sam Smith though, I have to say. But that's a really good option. I may have to do that in the future. That was fantastic. I'm not going to do it again because I want to enjoy these beers on their own. Let's just dive into the Hepworth stuff again. Ah. Yeah. Two beers of the same style. Very different characters. This is malt, this is hops. Two great beers, I will say that. And do you know what? I started this video to determine which one was the best. And I'm really struggling because you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the best malts in that one, the best malt character. I mean, that is just superb. But the hops on this, you can't disregard them. This is more bitter, or bitterer, as they say in London. But this is sweeter, and that's the malt character that's giving it that sweetness. They're just two fantastic beers. And do you know what? I really can't separate the two. I love them both. Now, of course, I've got to take things into consideration, as I mentioned before on the video. This lot, much bigger brewery, but I have just read that they've stopped doing all their cask beer now because there is no demand for it whatsoever with this COVID lockdown. So they're just doing bottled beer. Be interesting to see how that turns out. And that was only announced the other day, so this isn't part of that. So I may have to revisit Timothy Taylor. Damn, I hate this job. But I might have to revisit it in about a month or so, because I think that's probably when them batches are going to come through. But this stuff, and the only thing about this, I'm gutted that more people can't try it, because it is superb. I ignored this for ages. It was on the shelf in Morrison's, and there was just so many other beers, and I really am gutted that I never discovered this earlier. But yeah, two absolutely outstanding beers. So what's the verdict on these two? Well, do you know what? And this is going to sound like a massive cop-out, but I really don't want to say one is better than the other. They're different, but their differences make them unique, and they make them outstanding. And I really don't think I can. I love the Timothy Taylor stuff. I love it for the hop character. It's got that lovely, typical British characteristic of the orange zest, the earthy bitterness, and the pepper as well on the finish that makes it slightly bitter. This stuff is all about the malt. I don't know, well, they've used Sussex malt in it. They don't say what salt, but it's just lovely, and it's very malt heavy, and it reminds me of a really, really good quality. And don't get me wrong, there was some shit around in the 70s. Did you know, I was looking at a video the other day, and it was interviewing all the old Young's Brewery and Fuller's Brewery workers. And Fuller's, they were saying about the brewery, how unhygienic it was. There was like rats, weevils in the malt, there was pigeons all over the place, and it got the nickname, Fuller's got the nickname of full of shit and turnips, because people could see how unhygienic the brewery was. But breweries are like that anyway. But sorry, I'm going way off topic there. But yeah, I really can't decide. If I had to pick one of my personal choice, I think the Hepworth would get it, and that would be. Oh, it's such a tough choice. I want to say the Hepworth, but then I'm thinking about all the good things about Timothy Taylor. I can't separate them. They've both got fantastic characteristics that I'm not gonna say one's better than the other, because if I say that's better, then I'm gonna think about all the good things about this. So no, I'll tell you something. These two, I would say, are joint second place when it comes to pale ale. Number one, Sam Smith's. Nothing can touch that. That is the best in my opinion. Their pale ale, Sam Smith's, are way up there. They're wearing the crown. And these two, in my opinion, are second. I can't separate them, and it would be cruel if I did. No, I'm not going to do it. It might sound like a cop-out, but that is the standard. That is how good they are. They're both fantastic pale ales. What I will say, if you prefer sweet biscuit malt, very sessionable beer, light coloured, nice mouthfeel, go for the Hepworth. If you prefer a lot more hop character, a slight touch of the orangey, zingy type citrus, go for the Timothy Taylor. And if you're a fan of pale ale, I urge you to try both, and you make up your own mind. I'd love it if people could, especially down here, I know there's certain places that do sell both beers, but if you could compare both and see what you think. I imagine a lot of people would prefer the Hepworth stuff because it is sweeter and it's more maltier, but for me, I can't, because I love the characteristics of both beers. So today, everyone, in the words of what's his name? Errol Brown. Was it Errol Brown? What's the fella out of Hot Chocolate? I think it was Errol Brown, wasn't it? Everyone's a winner. And remember, don't drink French beer and don't go to Brighton.